Hello, this is a video about neighbour noise. It may or may not be what you think it is. If you're a tagged individual, maybe you should consider this or at least investigate the possibility of this. I'll explain what this is in a moment. This is my bedroom wall, and I'll explain what this is and how I came about investigating this. One day I was in bed. I was awoken by very loud banging, which is not unusual, and this is my bedroom wall. It sounded like it was coming from next door. Next door is my living room, so I thought, right, it's probably the flat next door. Yeah, so I went round into my living room, yeah, and I thought, right, it's coming from over there, which is the flat next door. No, it's not. Very interesting. It sounds like it's coming from here, which is my bedroom, where I've just come out of. So I go back into my bedroom, and it's coming from here. Very, very odd. Is it coming from the ceiling, I wonder? I go back round. Very interesting. It's coming from here. Not here. It's coming from here. So, maybe it's coming from the ceiling. So, I stand on the chair. Listen. No. Doesn't sound like that. Put my ear to the wall. Sounds like it's coming from somebody stood here on my bed, in my bedroom, on my bedroom wall, banging on the wall. And that's exactly what it sounds like on the other side of the wall. So you've either got somebody inside this wall banging, a little man, or you've got something very fishy going on. And it wasn't coming from upstairs. It was clearly from the wall. So I start to investigate things, and I find two white spots, which are very similar to these. I'll show you two. See that? That's where there's been some sort of hole, and it's been filled in with plaster. There you go. That's a bit clearer. And it was like that. And there was two of those side by side, which when I scraped the plaster out, well, it's polyfiller actually, I'm going to put it back. Just left this here to the purpose to make this video. When I took out the plaster, I found, very interestingly, in one of the holes, this metal. This is a reconstruction because the actual metal was in my bag along with my my phone video recorder and the recorder that I've used to make most of my videos, containing a lot of photos on my phone, a lot of evidence with pictures of perps on and such, and that's another story. And also my recorder with a lot of audio evidence on, and also was this metal, the original piece of metal that was in this wall. That was in my bag wrapped in tissue paper, and that was in the bag along with my electromagnetic receiver. All those things were taken from me. I was robbed at knife point, and that was 4 days after photographing a perp and telling him that I knew he was photographing me. And also after that, the police, I went to a supermarket and there was parked on the corner. There was no houses, there was nothing there, no reason for the police to be parked there. And there's no buildings, nothing. And as I walked past the person, there was a young boy on a bike. It was an Asian policeman. There was an Asian boy on a bike. He turned around to look at me and he went, "That's verbal harassment," at me. And the day before that is when I accosted the gang stalker and told him to stop doing it and that he was some kind of pervert. And then I got robbed. Very coincidental, of course. So anyway, it's not going to be deliberate, is it? No. So anyway, this piece of silver, the original one that was in the wall here, where these noises were coming from, was I've tried to do something as similar as possible. It was a very dull, a very like a zinc. This is very shiny. It's the same shape, the same size. It's bent over there. Yeah, I live on a second floor building, so it's not to do with the lightning. Plus, it's not connected to anything else in there. And it was the original was like a grey. It looked like zinc, but it was very, very brittle. It's very thin, but very brittle, and it looked like zinc. And it had a white powdery substance on it. And there, it had two circles, like raised circles. I don't know what they were. I didn't go into them, but there was bubbles like solder, but they weren't solder because they was perfect. It was perfectly formed, like lumps of solder. I don't know what was in them, or the purpose of them, and they was on the part that was turned over, that was facing outwards. The part that was turned over was like that, facing outwards. And this metal to me looked very much like silver or zinc, but it wasn't silver because it was in a wall. It was silver. It would have gone green. It was very, very brittle, and it wasn't aluminium, but it wasn't magnetic. So I looked online, and I found that there was a substance that looked just like it, and it is a highly electromagnetic conductive material. And I found this out by chance when it took me about 5 minutes. And it is used in conduction loops. Induction loops, same thing, not really. Induction loops. And what induction loops are metal structures that generally go in the walls or around the room of a person, that uses them to amplify, to get the signal and amplify it from electromagnetic devices such as TVs, record players. What they do is they work to amplify sound, to catch the electromagnetic signals in order for the person's hearing aid to amplify them. Now, you know how small hearing aids are. What is needed to amplify it is obviously an amplifier, but it's obviously it's got a thing called a telecoil, and it's a very small piece of metal like this with a wire wrapped around it. And those are what are in hearing aids, and they're also in cochlear implants as well. So there's not very much material needed in order to amplify electromagnetic signals. Now, the one that goes around the room, that's not made of the metal that I researched online. But these very, very small electromagnetic receivers are the ones such as that are worn around your neck, or the very tiny ones for on your desk. They are made of that metal. It's supposed to be one of the best ones. So I've got that one, and this is a very interesting one. I'm going to tell you in a minute as well. And there was another one in there. So I've done a reconstruction, but I haven't got my tweezers to get it out. So there was another one in there, another silver one. Yeah, smaller than that one. That one was big. That was smaller, but they was both more or less the same. Now, what was interesting is that these induction loops work in parallel, so they have two. You have to have two. Very interesting. And they have to be more or less side by side, not next to each other, but side by side. I don't know why that is, but when you look at even the ordinary induction loops, they have two strips of metal side by side. So that's what I found out, and I must say that having removed this, I do no longer get the banging from this wall. Very interesting. What is also something that is going to be very interesting to TIs because I've confronted the person from the property above many, many times, because I have drilling, banging, excessive door slamming, which you are talking every second or every 2 seconds for like 8 hours a day. Who is going to go in and out of a door for 8 hours a day? And you can hear the latch go, like they're opening the door and then they're slamming it. So there's either a recorder on a loop up there playing that, some kind of speaker, when the person's out, or they're doing it, they've got multiple personalities, so they don't know they're doing it, or they're lying. You've got those three things, or you've got some kind of something like this in somewhere in the rest of the building that's doing it. Yeah, I've confronted the person many times, and when they do come to the door, I thought it's been ignorant, not answering the door and doing all this banging. When they do come to the door, the time when they have, it's not me. And they really did look like they were telling the truth. All the times I've been, and there's been nobody in. All the lights have been out. You've had the door slamming all day, and it's still slamming. And then you go up, so you've got somebody sitting in a home, in a flat, going in and out of a door with the lights off, and then they tell me they're not in. So either you've got some very clever tomfoolery going on, that people would drive themselves insane doing those things. It's supposed to make the target insane and drive them insane. So you've either got a recorder, a loop, the person is in on it, or you've got something like this. Another thing I'd like to say, which is very relevant also, is that not my last property, the property before that, where all this began, there was this constant sound, and it was always on a Sunday, and it came from what was the next door neighbour's kitchen. Now, this sound was, I'm just going to go over here. And this sound was this. It's like somebody rooting restlessly through drawers. But imagine that for like 6-7 hours. Right, very, very distinctive. Very, very distinctive, like a rummaging through drawers. And that was, I believe the woman next door was insane, and that she was rummaging through drawers for several hours a day on a Sunday. It's like she was tidying up on a Sunday, but it was too much to be tidying up. Her kitchen was very, very tiny. She probably had about 6 drawers, all in all, stacked against the wall, and that was it. So you've got somebody rummaging through 6 drawers for hours on end. What? To annoy me? Or because they're looking for something? Think about it. So at the time, I believe that she was just doing it to annoy me, because the person, I will play you some of the death threats that she gave me, and I will play some of the banging at that property also, which I managed to record and use in a court case, and which, you know, I wasn't convicted. I've explained that on my part 1 of how So the person was crazy, and now I'm beginning to suspect she's multiple personality, because it was always victim perpetrator. It was one of those 2 roles, and she would just switch. Now, that back to the noises. These noises, the rooting through drawers noises for hours and hours on end, greatly amplified, very loud, but very realistic. You would just think it's somebody next door rooting through the drawers. I'm in a flat. I'm in a 2nd floor flat. This exactly identical noises to that, and that was a house emanating from upstairs, or appear to be. How can that be? How can somebody in the flat upstairs root through drawers for hours on end, so that it sounds exactly the same as it sounded, not my last property, but the property before that? So it's the same tape, the same recording, it's the same file that they're playing, you know? Or they must have similar files that they use on other people in this process of harassment. And that is, and also because it's coming from upstairs, there would have to be drawers on the floor in order to hear that. You wouldn't hear it. You wouldn't hear somebody coughing or talking, just normal volume, or rooting through drawers. The drawers would have to be on the floor. So you would have somebody rooting through 1 drawer or several drawers on the floor for several hours. It's not really likely, is it? Okay, I will just give you a quick play of some of the evidence that I collected at my last property of the person, and very interestingly, some of the death threats that she gave me. And from what has happened since then, I don't know if the death threats are just to mislead me, that all this is coming from that single woman, all this targeting and harassment, or if she was used in this program as a pawn, if she was being used as well to do this. She was obviously told lies about me. Okay, I'll play some of the neighbour noise from there. There we go.
think she said it because I filmed her intimidating me the day before. I reported this woman for the noise nuisance, the banging and stuff like that, and she became very aggressive after that. And this is where she tells her husband to do another knock. She's doing a knock. Threatening to stab me. That speaks for itself. She was actually phoning the police and saying, I don't know what she was saying, but she was the person that attacked me. You know, that is the victim. And you've heard some of the banging that I recorded from there. I actually reported the council about the banging, and we had mediation. And if you've listened to part 1, you'll find out that this woman actually lied to the police and said that she'd phoned the council over, and that she showed them this. She actually gave it to the police. It's in my files. She gave this letter to the police, which was off the council, and it was an agreement. When I continually phoned the council and I had to fill in nuisance records, and I was phoning the police, and they was coming out about all this noise and this hassle and abuse I was getting. And they just switched. They did, we're not doing that. Luckily, I managed to get some evidence that they were. But what happened before she attacked me and before I became a targeted individual was that I went through the motions with the council. We had mediation. I had to sign a form. She had to sign a form because obviously she accused me of things that I wasn't doing, you know. And I reported her, and then she accused me. I even went to a solicitor before I phoned the council, and I had letters from that as well. So this was like a year before. And then what she did was she gave that letter to the police and said that she'd phoned the council about me, which was absolute nonsense. You know, they didn't check it out, and they just put that in my file, which is just ridiculous. But I think if you are being targeted, and you've got to remember that I reported a very large factory in 2010. This was in 2012 when all this began. 2010, I reported a very large factory. I didn't report them once. They lied, and I actually went out at night and proved that they were lying and that they were working. I actually met some of the workers that they were starting at 12 o'clock at night. And they was involved in, which is very interesting, they was involved in some kind of polymerization, which was has been alleged to have been used on targeted individuals to, but they was using it with other things, with other chemicals, carbon, and carbon nano spraying, carbon nano. Is it PECID? Were they? But it's been alleged that they're using that on targeted individuals, and that allows the spray. They breathe it in, and then they use some kind of a ray on the targeted individual, which allows the polymer. It's a polymer to bond to the nervous system and the brain. So that is alleged. But whether it was involved in that, I have no idea. But I just found it a bit strange that I reported that factory, which at the time, 5 million turnover, and there was part of a private equity firm called Endless, which would have a 500 million portfolio. So, and they own places like in the portfolio, places like Mothercare and the Works and stuff, and B&Q. I think it's B&Q. So, you know, they would definitely have the power to do it, and they would most definitely be Masons at that level. Virtually everybody's a Freemason when they're in corporations and stuff. But anyway, all that is speculation. But the recordings I've played you and the videos that I've showed you of the Neighbour, the video I've showed you of the holes in the wall and the very strange objects, you know, if you're a targeted individual, I think rather than just think that your neighbours are ganging up on you, they might be. I'm not saying they're not. Obviously, one or two will. If you are a targeted individual, they're not going to let the opportunity go. But to do that, for somebody to do that, think about it. So many times a day, they'd either have to be out of their mind already, or it would drive them out of their mind. Have you got better things to do than just slam a door for 8 hours a day? I have. Okay, thank you. God bless.